Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on the time zone you're watching this video. Today, we would like to talk to Fatema and know more about her current position and her background. She's been a great speaker, valuable resource to virtue testing, so this is our opportunity to talk to her. Virtue testing is a California, USA incorporated organization. VT is maintaining an active exempt status with Franchise Tax Board and Internal Revenue Services. Virtue testing, also known as VT, was founded on a simple concept, curiosity. How many times have you had a great idea only to be limited by your professional environment? How do you integrate and debug your ideas across different technology platforms if you don't even have that? VT believes state-of-the-art technology can and should be accessible by anyone. On the screen, you can see VT offers 3 centers of excellence. From the right, innovation is to work with partners to crowd test new security platform integrations. On the left, education is to offer community to speak, collaborate, hands-on learning, and grow. In the middle, charity is to offer fiscal sponsorships to groups and missions to enable them so they can start accepting tax-deductible donations without having to build and maintain nonprofit legal status. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Fatema.
Thank you, Victor. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Fatema Bannat. You can see my LinkedIn and Twitter handle right in front of you on the screen. My LinkedIn profile is not public, so whenever you go on that link, it would say that the profile could not be found, but you have to kind of like log in to LinkedIn to see it. So I just realized that this morning when I was clicking on it, and I was like, oh, it doesn't work. But I was like, it makes sense because my privacy settings are set to private. So a little bit of background about me. I'm super passionate about cybersecurity. I am a part-time, I'm going to talk more about my education in later on slides, but I'm a pretty big fan of open source and free network security tools. And the motivation for that is like one of the biggest challenges in like higher ed community, that a lot of organizations and institutions do not have like millions and millions of dollars invested in security. So we have to look out for the options that are cheaper, but they are highly workoutable. So that's why I'm pretty passionate about working with open source and free tools. And one of my true goals as well, like education is always free. So if you know something, you should definitely share it with other people so that they don't go ahead and reinvent the wheel. So when you can provide a helping hand to them, you should absolutely do so. I am a security engineer by profession, and that's why I'm like more inclined towards cybersecurity as one of my areas of expertise, and I kind of like work on that area more. A little bit of background on my education. I have a bachelor's degree in engineering back from India, and then I came to US to pursue my master's in computer engineering. I was a master's student in 2013 in University of Delaware, and from there as well, I'm pursuing my PhD, which is kind of like part-time. That's why I'm writing continuing, because I am still pursuing it. I don't have a degree yet, but I'm almost getting there. And my area of focus in my PhD is again cybersecurity. It's a pretty broad term. I don't want to like write something very focused on this is the thing I'm working on right now, because there are like multiple things that I'm working on right now for my PhD program as well. So yeah, I am still affiliated with University of Delaware for pursuing my PhD. So as I mentioned before, that I'm a security engineer by profession, and one of my biggest strengths is defense architecture. So my first job after graduating from University of Delaware with a master's was a security engineer. So I was hired in university's technical security group to maintain and to build the SIEM solution for the university. SIEM is security incident and event management platform. So I was one of the key architects who was trying to build up an architecture that would monitor the logs from all the different sources, centralize it, and create some kind of alerting and reporting on what's going on. So that kind of like built my interest more in defense zone of security, because there are a lot of different kind of securities, right? Like people do pen testing, they are very much into offensive security, and then other people are like a lot of times interested in policy and compliance and privacy. But my kind of like forte is dealing with defense architecture. I did work with a lot of IDS and IPS systems as well, because I was the only member in the team. We were the team of 3 people, excluding my manager. So we had a lot of things to do by ourselves. Because security is very broad, right? And we were only 3 people. So I was like in charge of dealing with SIEM solution, maintaining it, and then other IDS and IPS systems that university have. So, and part of it was like half of the time we were like inclined towards using open source and free tools for the university. So that's why my interest on open source and free tool kind of like, I gained my interest from there. Apart from my full-time profession, which is cybersecurity engineer, I am also a part-time PhD student, as I mentioned before. One of my focus areas was DNS. That's why I mentioned DNS protocol is pretty near and dear to the heart. I have read a lot of RFCs. That's what I do in my pastime. Whenever I'm like getting bored or something, I would just open up an RFC and I will start reading it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this part on like protocol. I didn't know that. So it's pretty interesting, like how you know more whenever you read something about it. And it's a very basic, I would not say it's a very basic, I mean, it is a very basic protocol, but it is like the bread and butter kind of thing for the internet to work, right? If you don't have DNS, internet would just not work, because you cannot just remember the IP address for every single site you visit. So one of my focus areas is DNS, especially DNS over TLS and DNS over HTTPS, which is kind of like a new norm that is coming into the industry. And it is pretty impressive how people are taking their own thought on why it is important, and some people are just like, nope, it's not important, it's just going to, like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of debate over there. So that's interesting. Security researching, I usually try to keep up to date with what's going on in the industry, like what are the trends, what are the newses. So it just helps me to keep up with what is industry discussing right now as part of like security. So I read a lot of news articles and different blog posts, and what is it called, the security news feeds that come in, like which mentions like the top 10 vulnerabilities of the week. I am enrolled in SANS News Bites, so it is pretty impressive. Like every week you get a new newsletter from SANS, and they hit like top 5 cybersecurity related news. So that's pretty impressive. So I try to keep up with the industry trends, but sometimes I kind of like slack off on that as well if I'm doing something very important related to my work. Pastime, I like to play around with different technologies and tools available out there, especially cybersecurity related. And then I just like, as I said before, that I love defense architecture. So I just like to look at the logs. And just like, if you just torture the logs enough, it is going to confess to anything you want. That's a quote I read somewhere. So it just stuck to my mind that, yeah, that is so true, that if you just torture your logs enough, they are going to, give you the information that you're looking for. So that was kind of like my career highlights so far I have been doing with my time. Projects I work on, I have only mentioned the projects that I was working professionally, like in my full-time career as a cybersecurity engineer. So as I mentioned before, I'm a pretty big fan of open source and free tools. Zeek and Surikata are one of them. So I like to play around with Zeek and Surikata, install them, run them, and see what kind of alerts and logs they are generating. They're pretty impressive tools, by the way. You should absolutely give it a try if you haven't already done so. Splunk maintenance and threat hunting, this is again, like, it's my professional career related projects that I work on, and I like to work on them because they complete the security defense architecture. Like, you have a central place for aggregating and collecting logs, you have log generating IDS systems in place, whatnot. So apart from my professional projects, I really like to give talks, webinars, and present on something cool that I have worked on, and maybe that's useful for people. So I try to give some talks and some work that I have done that is interesting, that people might find it interesting, and if people can get something out of it, then why not? So that's kind of like my pastime interest things that I kind of like do for the community. That's like my 2 cents giving back to the community, the support that I have gotten from the community. So I was like, yeah, I should also give something back to the community. I just cannot be a lurker on all this information available out there.
It's definitely more than 2 cents, everyone. She's been a great community speaker for virtue testing. She has prepared 2 sessions for us, delivered it, and it's a lot of hands-on that she had to work behind the scenes as well. So Thank you, Fatima. It's definitely more than 2 cents that you're giving back to the community.
Oh, thanks, Victor. I just try that, one day people kind of like, if everyone kind of like gives back their 2 cents, then it is going to be like, it will just build up an ocean of
Well,
2 cents.
definitely for being you're good at being the role model, and we'll definitely follow you.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to get a platform to share my thoughts and my knowledge out there. So thanks for providing that platform actually for
Of
people to
course.
come up and speak. And so yeah, log analysis, defense in depth, always like I would never get bored of that, I think. At least not for like years now. I don't know what my future would look like, but at least for years I would not get bored of that. And lastly, I that's the code I kind of like, look up to whenever I'm just feeling depressed and I'm like, oh, I'm just useless and I just cannot do anything. And I was like, because sometimes, you are working on some projects or you're working on some ideas that are taking really long and you just kind of like lose hope that it's not going to work out and you just stop working. And then I just feel like it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter whether you finished it like in 2 months or 3 months or 5 years, as long as you're making progress a little by little in each day, you are really progressing and moving forward. So it doesn't matter that how fast you get to the goal, as long as you have the goal and you are like you are taking each and every step to move closer to that goal, then that's kind of like that counts. So yeah, your speed just doesn't matter. Forward is forward, as long as you are putting enough efforts and you think that you are learning in each single step. It's always the journey that matters, not the destination. So yep,
That's right.
that's about it.
Thank you. And once again, folks, we really appreciate Fatima's community help. She's been a community speaker with virtue testing. She has planned out more sessions on Zeek. So stay tuned. The way you can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, there's a QR code on your screen. So if you just scan that using a smartphone, that'll take you to our website, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. You can also go to https://virtuetesting.com. All the links are available there, and you can stay tuned to all of our upcoming events and the past recordings. Fatima, thank you so much. We learned a lot from you. I hope you keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Victor, for providing this great platform to share the thoughts and to connect with the community more and to contribute back to the community. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.